Sometimes, life throws you a choice that costs everything, but gives you more than you could ever imagine. This is a story about that choice, about a $15 sacrifice made by a 14-year-old boy, and how it ignited a wildfire of revenge, redemption, and a legacy that transformed a city. It's a confession of how easily prejudice can blind us, and how profoundly kindness can reshape not just one life, but an entire community. I remember that day like it was yesterday, the scorching Detroit sun beating down, turning the asphalt into a frying pan. I was only 14, my hands still smelling faintly of car wash soap, the crumpled $15 bill in my pocket feeling like a lifeline. It was all I had, earned washing cars all day, every penny earmarked for Destiny, my little sister, her breathing a fragile whisper without her asthma medicine. But then my path was irrevocably altered. He lay there, a giant of a man, clad in the infamous Hell's Angels vest, sprawled on the cold pavement outside the pharmacy. His face, purple and strained, his lips a terrifying blue, a heart attack. I knew what that meant. I'd seen it before, the same terrifying struggle in my grandfather's last moments. My own breath hitched. "Hey kid, get out of the way before I call the police!" The pharmacy manager's voice, sharp and dismissive, sliced through the panic. He pointed a finger at me, kneeling, frozen in a moment of sheer helplessness. "It's not your problem, kid," a white customer sneered, leaving the pharmacy, his bag rustling with his purchases. "These guys are criminals. Let the police deal with it." A middle-aged woman stopped, shaking her head in disgust, her judgment a palpable weight. "What kind of example are you setting, boy? Getting involved with these people? Didn't your parents teach you any better?" Anger flared in my chest, hot and righteous, but I forced it down, my focus fixed on the dying man. I'd grown up in the raw, unforgiving streets of Detroit, where my nurse mother worked 3 jobs, her shoulders carrying the weight of our world. Her words, though, were my compass. "Kevin, when someone needs help, you help them, no matter who they are." It wasn't just a lesson, it was the foundation of our existence. The biker's eyes fluttered open, weak and pleading. My medicine. In my pocket." I fumbled, my fingers clumsy with adrenaline, finding an empty nitroglycerin bottle. Empty. "I need aspirin, quick!" I shouted, my voice cracking, desperation clawing at my throat. The manager stood in the doorway, arms crossed, a sneer plastered on his face. "I don't sell anything to minors," he replied, his voice colder than the asphalt beneath me, "and certainly not to help criminals." My gaze darted between the dying man and the $15 in my hand. Destiny needed that medicine to breathe. But this man, he needed it to live. The choice was brutal, immediate and utterly clear. My sister's comfort or a stranger's life. I got up, ran into the pharmacy, grabbed aspirin and water. I slammed the $15 on the counter. "This is for a medical emergency. Will you sell it to me or not?" He rolled his eyes, snatched the money, no change given. Not that it mattered. I ran back, broke 2 aspirin tablets, and carefully placed them in the biker's mouth. "Chew. It'll help." For 10 agonizing minutes I knelt there, holding his head, whispering encouragement, telling him not to give up. The world around me blurred, judgmental stares, cell phones flashing, people probably waiting for the worst to post online, a morbid spectacle. But I didn't care. I wouldn't let him go. When the ambulance finally screamed to a halt, the paramedic looked at me, stunned. "Did you give him aspirin?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He nodded slowly. "Kid, you saved this man's life. A few more minutes and it would have been too late." As they hoisted him onto the stretcher, his hand shot out, grabbing mine in a grip surprisingly strong. "What's your name, kid?" he rasped. "Kevin Washington." He coughed, his eyes fixed on mine. "My name is Razor. You saved me. I won't forget." Then he was gone, swallowed by the ambulance lights, and I was alone in the parking lot. No money, no medicine for Destiny, just a hollow ache in my stomach and the gnawing feeling that I'd done the right thing. but at the absolute worst possible time for my own family. What I didn't know was that Razor had whispered something to the paramedic before losing consciousness. 2 words that would change everything. And what no one there could have imagined was that this tattooed criminal had secrets that would transform my entire life in ways even my most optimistic dreams couldn't have predicted. If you're connecting with this story of how a single act of kindness can set off a chain reaction, don't forget to subscribe to follow Kevin's journey, to uncover what Razor whispered, and how 100 bikers would soon appear at Kevin's door. The weight of my empty pockets was heavier than any burden I'd ever carried as I walked through the dark, unforgiving streets of Detroit. Each step echoed the stark reality awaiting me at home. 3 blocks before our crumbling building, I heard it. The sound that chilled my blood and plunged my heart into an icy grip. Destiny. Her small, fragile lungs fighting for air. Another asthma attack. I sprinted up the stairs, 2 at a time, bursting into our small apartment on the 3rd floor. My mother, Tracy Washington, a warrior forged in the fires of exhaustion, held Destiny in her lap, her own eyes red from a double shift at the hospital. Destiny wheezed, her tiny chest heaving. "Where's the medicine, Kevin?" Mom asked, her voice laced with a raw weariness that tore at me. "You said you'd pick it up today?" I hung my head, the shame a bitter taste in my mouth. "Mom, Don't tell me you lost the money, Kevin. Please don't tell me that." Her voice was a desperate plea. "I didn't lose it," I whispered, the words barely audible. "I saved a man's life. He was dying, and I had to use the money to buy aspirin for him." Mom closed her eyes, rocking Destiny, who was still struggling to breathe. For a moment, a silence heavier than any accusation filled the room. Then she opened her eyes, gazing at me with a profound, almost painful understanding. "Kevin, my love, you have a heart of gold, but sometimes—" She trailed off, seeing the raw pain reflected in my own eyes, the guilt that was a physical weight. She sighed, her shoulders slumping. "Let's go to the hospital. I'll ask the head nurse for a free sample." The emergency room, the very place my mother dedicated her life to, became a crucible of humiliation. Sandra, the head nurse, a white woman in her 50s, with an aura of barely concealed disdain, looked at us as if we were a contamination. "Tracy, you know I can't just hand out free medication. This isn't a charity center." Her words were like a slap. My mother, who saved lives every day, whose compassion knew no bounds, was being treated like a common beggar. "Sandra, it's for my daughter. Just 1 dose until I can buy it." Sandra crossed her arms, a cold, unyielding wall. "Your family needs to learn to take financial responsibility. I can't solve every personal problem my employees have." The humiliation in my mother's eyes was a visible wound. It ignited a protective fury in me. "I have money," I lied, pulling out the measly $2.50 in coins from my pocket. "Is that enough?" Sandra laughed, a cruel, contemptuous sound that echoed in the sterile hallway. "Kid, this medicine costs $60. Do you think this is a convenience store?" It was at that moment that Dr. Mitchell, a kind black doctor, stopped, drawn by Sandra's cruel laughter. "What's going on here?" "Tracy's family problem," Sandra dismissed, as if our struggle were contagious. Dr. Mitchell didn't hesitate. He quickly examined Destiny, his brow furrowed with concern, then administered a free dose of the bronchodilator. "It's taken care of," he said, his voice firm, ignoring Sandra's angry glare. The relief that washed over me was immense, but it was quickly overshadowed. As we were leaving, I overheard Sandra's venomous whisper to another nurse. "These people always have an excuse. I bet the kid spent the money on something stupid, and now he's made up this hero story." I stopped. My blood ran cold, then boiled with a rage so potent it startled me. I turned slowly, my cell phone clutched in my hand. "Would you like to see the video?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Someone filmed me saving the man. Or would you rather continue to believe that poor black people only do bad things?" Sandra's face flushed a mottled red, her composure crumbling. "Don't be rude, kid." "Kevin, let's go," Mom urged, pulling at my arm, trying to diffuse the explosive situation. But I couldn't. I had inherited something from her, a quiet strength, a refusal to bow down to injustice. No, Mom. She needs to know that we're not what she thinks we are. Dr. Mitchell approached, his expression serious. What's this story about saving someone? I quickly recounted the whole ordeal. Razor, the pharmacy, the $15. He listened silently, then turned his gaze to Sandra, his voice cutting through the tension. You're judging a child who saved a life with his family's money. That says more about you than it does about him. Sandra, utterly defeated, left without a word. On the way home, Mom held my hand, her grip tight. Kevin, I need to tell you something about your father. I had grown up believing he had abandoned us. But that night, at 14, I learned the truth that would reshape my understanding of myself and my purpose. Your father was a paramedic, Marcus Washington. He died saving a family in a car accident when you were 2 years old. He dove into the river to pull a child out of the sinking car. I stopped walking, the revelation hitting me like a physical blow. He was like you, Kevin. He saw someone in need and couldn't ignore them. That's why I can't be mad at you for helping that man. It's who you are. It's who your father was. She took a crumpled photo from her wallet, a black man in a paramedic uniform, smiling, holding a baby, me. He always said, Tracy, a person's life is worth more than any amount of money. And he was right. That night, I lay in bed, the photo of my father clutched in my hand. Destiny slept peacefully in the next room, her breathing finally normal after the medication. At 2:00 a.m., the phone rang, jarring the quiet. Mom answered sleepily. Hello, Mrs. Washington. My name is Cole. I'm a friend of the man your son saved today. Razor asked me to call. It's late, sir. We're asleep. Sorry for the time, but it's important. Razor is fine and he wants to meet your family. Can I come by tomorrow morning? Mom looked at me. I had woken up, my eyes wide. Who's Razor? I mouthed. The man Kevin saved. She hesitated, her ingrained caution battling with something else. Ma'am, your son did something extraordinary today. We want to repay him. We don't want money, Mom said, her voice filled with a quiet pride that pierced my heart. It's not about money. It's about recognizing what Kevin did and showing that not all adults are like that nurse at the hospital. My mother hesitated, but I nodded, my hopes soaring. Yes, all right. Tomorrow at 10:00 a.m. When she hung up, I asked, Mom, do you think I did the right thing? She kissed my forehead, her lips soft against my skin. Kevin, you did exactly what your father would have done, and I've never been more proud. What they didn't know was that Cole had lied about one thing. It wouldn't just be him showing up the next morning. And what I couldn't have imagined was that moment of judgment at the hospital, the humiliation my family had suffered, had been seen by someone very powerful who was about to change everything. Because sometimes, when you do the right thing for the right reasons, the universe conspires to show you that kindness is the most powerful force there is, even when everyone around you insists on betting on cruelty. The next morning, I woke at 6:00 a.m. as usual, but something felt different. Destiny was breathing normally, happily playing with an old doll on the living room floor, her soft giggles a melody I hadn't realized I'd missed so desperately. Mom was making watery coffee, the last of the pot. Mom, do you think that man Cole was serious? I asked, looking out the window, a nervous flutter in my stomach. I don't know, sweetheart, she replied, her voice tinged with the weary wisdom of experience. Rich people promise a lot when they're grateful, then they forget. At 9:45 a.m., I was a bundle of nerves. At 9:50 a.m., I heard it, a distant rumble that made my heart race. Engines, lots of engines. Mom ran to the window, her eyes widening in disbelief. Oh my God, Kevin, come see this! 10 Hells Angels motorcycles, gleaming chrome and black leather, were parking in front of our building. It wasn't just 10. It felt like a silent army had descended. Neighbors began to appear at their windows, some openly calling the police, their faces etched with fear and suspicion. I saw Cole getting off one of the bikes, his expression calm amidst the sudden chaos. "Mom, they really came." My mother smoothed her simple dress, the best she had, her face a mixture of apprehension and a strange, dawning hope. "Kevin, be polite, but careful. We don't know what they want yet." Cole came up alone, knocking gently on the door, a stark contrast to the thunderous arrival of his companions. "Mrs. Washington, it's Cole. We spoke last night." Mom opened the door. Cole was a white man in his mid-30s, with short, neat hair and none of the elaborate tattoos typical of other bikers. He wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, no Hell's Angels vest. "Can I come in? I have a few things to explain before the others come up." We sat in our small living room, the peeling paint on the walls, the old lumpy sofa, the tube TV that barely worked, all suddenly feeling exposed under Cole's gaze. He looked around, taking it all in, not with judgment, but a quiet intensity. "First, I want you to know who Razor really is. His real name is Robert Martinez. He's 52 years old, and he's a multimillionaire." My mother and I exchanged confused glances. A millionaire? The dying biker from the parking lot? Razor owns 3 construction companies in Detroit. He employs over 400 people, but 15 years ago he almost died of an overdose. He was saved by a paramedic. My mother swallowed hard, her eyes locking onto mine, a flicker of something profound passing between us. "A paramedic. Marcus Washington. Your husband, Kevin. Your father." Silence, thick and heavy, filled the room. My legs felt like jelly. It couldn't be. The universe couldn't be this cruel, this poetic. Razor never forgot the name of the man who saved him. When Kevin said his last name yesterday, it all made sense. Razor spent years looking for Marcus's family to thank them. My mother began to cry quietly, tears of grief and a fragile hope she hadn't dared to feel. Cole continued, his voice softer now. "After Marcus saved his life, Razor decided to change. He quit drugs, built these companies, and started helping disadvantaged communities, all in honor of the man who gave him a second chance." "That's why the Hell's Angels?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the stereotype I held crumbling around me. Cole smiled. "Razor uses the group for social projects. They raise money, build houses, help families. They are businessmen, mechanics, teachers. The image of criminals is just a stereotype." I looked out the window. The bikers were organizing something on the street, their presence no longer intimidating, but purposeful. "What are they doing down there?" I asked. Cole's smile widened, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "Preparing a surprise, but first I need to tell you what happened at the hospital last night." My mother frowned, her memory of Sandra's cruelty still fresh. "At the hospital, Dr. Mitchell called Razor. He told him about Nurse Sandra, how she treated you guys." Razor was furious. Cole took out his cell phone, showing us a photo. Sandra getting into a brand new BMW, gleaming and expensive. Sandra makes $120,000 a year, lives in a mansion in West Bloomfield. Last night she posted on Facebook about these people who go to the hospital faking emergencies to get free medicine. A cold anger, far more potent than the initial shock, burned in my chest. "She posted about us?" "Yes, in detail. She said, 'You probably made up the Hell's Angel story to get attention.'" My mother clenched her fists, her face tight with controlled rage. "That woman!" "There's more," Cole said, his voice grim. "Sandra has a history. 7 complaints of racial discrimination in the last 3 years. All dismissed because she has protection from management." He put his phone away. "Razor wants to do something about it, but he needs your permission." "What kind of thing?" Mom asked cautiously, her nurse's pragmatism kicking in. "Nothing illegal, nothing violent, just public exposure of the truth." I looked at my mother, my eyes pleading. "Mom, she humiliated our family. She humiliated Dad's name." My mother hesitated, weighing the cost, the impact. "What exactly do you want to do?" Cole explained the plan, simple yet devastating in its elegance. After 30 minutes, my mother, a quiet fire in her eyes, agreed. But no violence, no threats. Word of honor, Cole affirmed. He went to the window and waved. The bikers began to climb the stairs. First came Razor, moving slowly, still recovering, but his eyes were alive. When he saw me, they filled with tears. Kevin Washington, son of the man who saved my life. We embraced, a silent, powerful acknowledgement of a bond stretching across time and sacrifice. Razor turned to my mother. Mrs. Washington, your husband gave me a second chance 15 years ago. Now I want to repay that to your family. Other bikers followed, carrying boxes, new clothes for Destiny and me, a year's supply of asthma medication, money for rent and food. This is just the beginning, Razor said, his voice husky with emotion. Kevin, your act yesterday reminded me why I started helping people. You have the same heart as your father. An older biker named Maria, her face kind but firm, approached my mother. I've been a nurse for 25 years. I know Sandra from the hospital. She's a disgrace to our profession. Are you really going to confront her? My mother asked, a hint of awe in her voice. We are not going to confront her, Razor said, a slow, knowing smile spreading across his face. We're going to educate her. At 2 p.m., 30 motorcycles, a formidable caravan, pulled up to Detroit Metropolitan Hospital. The Hells Angels, all wearing their vests and sunglasses, walked calmly, purposefully, into the reception area. Sandra was at the nursing station, gossiping when she saw them. Her face paled, the color draining from it as if someone had pulled a plug. Can I help you? Stammered the receptionist, her voice a high-pitched squeak. Yes, Razor said, his voice cutting through the bustling lobby, loud enough for every patient, every family member, every staff member to hear. We're here to publicly thank Nurse Sandra for the exemplary way she treated the Washington family last night. Sandra tried to hide behind her computer screen, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and dawning horror. Dr. Mitchell appeared, a discreet smile playing on his lips. He knew exactly what was happening. Sandra, he called, his voice calm. There are people here who want to talk to you. Sandra had no choice. She approached slowly, her hands trembling, her usually arrogant demeanor shattered. Nurse Sandra, Razor said again, his voice echoing, resonating with an undeniable authority. We want to thank you for showing your true colors last night. Maria, the motorcycle nurse, stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she looked directly at Sandra. Did you know that Nurse Sandra makes $120,000 a year, lives in a mansion, and drove an $80,000 BMW to work today? Yet yesterday, she refused to help an 8-year-old child who desperately needed asthma medication. Whispers began to spread through the lobby, a ripple of disbelief and growing indignation. Patients and family members, who moments ago were lost in their own concerns, now leaned forward, captivated by the unfolding drama. Did you also know, Maria continued, her voice rising slightly, that she posted on Facebook about this family, calling them those people and insinuating that they made up a medical emergency? The whispers turned into audible gasps, then a rising tide of outrage. Sandra tried to speak, her voice a reedy whine. You don't understand, We understand perfectly, Razor interrupted, his gaze piercing. You judged a working family based on the color of their skin and their financial situation. You allowed your prejudice to dictate your actions, and in doing so, you humiliated a child who chose selfless kindness over personal gain. Dr. Mitchell stepped in, his expression stern. Sandra, I need to talk to you now. While Sandra, her face a mask of defeat, was led away to a private room, the bikers dispersed throughout the hospital. They didn't shout. They simply talked. They spoke to patients in waiting rooms, to families in the hallways, to other staff members taking breaks. They told Kevin's story, how a 14-year-old boy spent his last $15, the money for his sister's life-saving medicine, to save a stranger. Within 2 hours, the entire hospital knew the story. More importantly, everyone knew about Sandra. Her reputation, painstakingly built on a foundation of professional arrogance and thinly veiled prejudice, had crumbled in a single afternoon. When the Hells Angels finally left, they didn't just walk out. They left behind an indelible mark, a truth that Sandra could never erase. In the administration office, Sandra sat weeping, her career and her carefully constructed life falling apart around her. Dr. Patterson, the hospital director, sat across from her, a stack of freshly printed complaints, emails, and social media screenshots piled on his desk. "Sandra, this can't go on. The complaints are piling up. Your actions have caused a major disruption and a serious breach of trust with our community. Effective immediately, I'm transferring you to the night shift records department. No contact with patients. This is your last chance." Sandra knew her career had just collapsed, all because she underestimated a 14-year-old black boy and his family. The irony was a bitter, indigestible pill. Back at our apartment, I looked out the window as the bikers prepared to leave, the setting sun glinting off their chrome. "Razor!" I called out, a question I'd been holding back escaping my lips. "Why did you do that for us?" Razor put his hand on my shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. "Kevin, there are people in this world who judge others by their appearance, the color of their skin, the money they have. Last night you judged me only because I needed help. That's rare. It's what your father would have done." He pointed to the framed photo of Marcus Washington, my father, on the coffee table. "Your father taught me that saving a life is worth any sacrifice. You've learned the same lesson. Now it's our turn to give back." Razor handed my mother an envelope. "Inside is the address of our headquarters. Kevin, I want you to come visit us. We have a mentoring program for young people. I teach mechanics, management, community leadership. You have a natural gift for leadership, I can see it." I opened the envelope. In addition to the address, there was a check. My eyes widened, a breathless gasp escaping me. $50,000 for college, Razor said, his voice gentle. "And so Destiny will never run out of medicine again." My mother burst into tears, the relief washing over her like a cleansing wave. I hugged Razor again, tighter this time, feeling the profound shift in my life. But what none of us could have imagined was that Sandra, in her fury and desperation, was planning a reprisal that would test the strength of this new alliance in ways no one could have predicted. And what I didn't know yet was that my simple act of kindness had created ripples that would spread far beyond Detroit, touching lives in places I never dreamed existed. Because sometimes, when you choose to do the right thing without thinking about the consequences, the universe not only rewards your courage, it multiplies it in ways your mind can't even imagine. Proving that true strength lies not in defeating enemies, but in turning strangers into family through the unbreakable power of human compassion. The following Monday, Sandra arrived at work, a knot of dread in her stomach, hoping the storm had passed. But when she parked her gleaming BMW in the spot reserved for supervisors, she noticed something strange. TV cameras. A whole host of them, glinting ominously in the morning light, clustered around the hospital entrance. "Nurse Sandra Morrison?" a blonde reporter asked, quickly approaching with a microphone thrust into her face. "Rachel Anderson, WXYZ News Detroit. Can we talk about your Facebook posts about the Washington family?" Sandra turned pale, her carefully constructed composure evaporating. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Your posts have been shared more than 50,000 times since yesterday," Rachel continued, showing her cell phone, the screen a dizzying scroll of comments and shares. "Did you really call an 8-year-old with asthma a fake and say that black people make up medical emergencies?" Sandra tried to run into the hospital, but more cameras appeared, seemingly from nowhere. The entire parking lot was surrounded, a media circus in full swing. Dr. Patterson, the director, intercepted her at the door, his face grim. "Sandra, my office now." Inside the hospital, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Employees whispered in the hallways, casting furtive glances. Patients pointed discreetly. Everyone knew. In the director's office, Sandra found a table piled high with printed documents, screenshots of her hateful Facebook posts, a thick stack of complaint emails, online petitions calling for her immediate resignation. 15,000 signatures in 24 hours, Dr. Patterson said, pointing to an online petition. Patients canceling appointments, donors threatening to cut funding. Sandra, you've destroyed this hospital's reputation. It was just a misunderstanding, Sandra stammered, her voice cracking. I was stressed. I didn't mean to. Dr. Patterson interrupted, his voice laced with cold fury. There's more. The Detroit News investigated your record. 7 discrimination complaints in 3 years, all dismissed because you had political protection. He slid another document across the desk. Your resignation, effective immediately. Sandra felt her world collapse. The ground beneath her feet vanished. You can't do this! I have rights! A union! The union voted to expel you last night, Dr. Patterson stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Unanimously. Outside in the hallway, Dr. Mitchell was talking to my mother. Tracy, you're going to do very well in this position, he said, a genuine warmth in his voice. We need more people like you and Kevin in this world. My mother, Tracy Washington, promoted to morning shift supervisor, the very position that had previously been Sandra's. It was a victory, quiet and profound, achieved through integrity, not ambition. Back at our apartment, an incredible transformation had taken place. Razor's generous gift had allowed us to move to a safer, brighter neighborhood. I was now attending a private school on a full scholarship, obtained through the Hells Angels mentoring program. But the real change was in me. Just 3 months after the incident at the pharmacy, I was already leading a community program, connecting inner-city youth with business mentors. 12 teenagers participated, learning about entrepreneurship, mechanics, and leadership. Razor had given me something far more valuable than money. Purpose. Kevin, Razor said during one of his weekly visits, his eyes twinkling, I want to show you something. We drove to a vacant lot in the heart of the old neighborhood, the very streets I'd grown up on. A sign, gleaming and new, stood proudly in the neglected field. Future home of the Marcus Washington Community Center. I read my father's name, and my eyes filled with tears, a wave of profound emotion washing over me. It's going to be a vocational training center, a free medical clinic, and a mentoring program, Razor explained, his hand resting on my shoulder. All funded by our organization. And you're going to run the youth program. Me? But I'm only 14. Razor smiled, a gentle, knowing look in his eyes. Your father was 23 when he saved me. You have the same heart as him. Age is just a number, Kevin. You embody everything this center will stand for. Meanwhile, Sandra faced a very different reality. Fired with no professional references, her name synonymous with scandal, she had also lost her engagement. Her ex-fiancé, a respected doctor, couldn't handle his name being associated with the public outcry. She now worked as an attendant at a veterinary clinic in the suburbs, earning a third of what she had before. Her beloved BMW had been repossessed by the bank. She drove a used car with constant engine problems. A year later, Sandra was at the supermarket, pushing a cart filled with generic products and discount coupons, when she saw me. On the cover of Detroit Today magazine, the headline screamed, "Young hero turns tragedy into hope." The article detailed how I had helped 50 families through the mentoring program, mediated racial conflicts in the community, and planned to expand the center to other cities. Sandra read about my accomplishments, then looked at her shopping cart, the stark reality of someone who had lost everything because of her own prejudice, a bitter reflection of her choices. That same week, the Marcus Washington Center was officially inaugurated. Hundreds of people gathered, a vibrant tapestry of Detroit's diverse community, including the mayor, local business leaders, and the entire Hells Angels community, now seen as pillars of change. I, now 15, stood on the stage, my heart pounding, but a quiet strength settling within me. My father saved Razor's life 15 years ago without knowing who he was, I began, my voice clear and steady. Razor taught me that kindness creates ripples that spread forever. This center is proof that when we choose to see people, not prejudices, we can change the world. In the audience, Dr. Mitchell applauded, his smile genuine, sitting alongside my mother, now the hospital's esteemed director of nursing. Destiny, breathing freely with her new state-of-the-art inhaler, waved to me from the front row, her joy infectious. Razor approached the microphone, his presence commanding. Kevin Washington is proof that heroes don't wear capes, they wear courage. And sometimes, they spend their last $15 to save strangers. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Cole, who had become my personal mentor, leaned over and whispered to Razor, "Marcus would be proud." Razor looked up at the ceiling, a wistful smile on his face. "He is proud," he replied. "Somewhere, he is. After the ceremony, a woman approached me hesitantly. It was Sandra, thin, her hair prematurely gray, dressed in simple, worn clothes. "Kevin, I wanted to apologize." I recognized her immediately, though she was a shadow of her former arrogant self. "Nurse Sandra." "Former nurse," she corrected, embarrassed, her eyes downcast. "I lost my job. I lost everything, and I deserved it." I studied her face. I saw genuine regret there, not self-pity, a raw vulnerability I hadn't expected. "Thank you for apologizing," I said simply, meaning it. "It means a lot." Sandra began to cry, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. "I was so prejudiced, so cruel. You are incredible people. And I judged you by the color of your skin, by your financial situation." "Ma'am," I said gently, my mother's wisdom guiding me. "My mother always says that people can change. If you've truly changed, maybe we can help you." Sandra looked at me incredulous. "After everything I've done?" "My father saved Razor's life when he was at rock bottom," I reminded her, the weight of his legacy in my voice. "Second chances transform lives. Do you really want a second chance?" Sandra nodded, sobbing openly now. I called Cole over. "Cole, Sandra needs a job. She has medical experience. Maybe at the community center?" Cole hesitated, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Then he saw the determination in mine. "Sandra, are you willing to volunteer first to prove you've changed?" "Yes," she whispered. "Anything." 6 months later, Sandra was working as a volunteer nurse at the center's free clinic, caring for the very families she had once despised. Each day was a lesson in humility and growth. I watched from the window as Sandra carefully administered a vaccine to a black child, talking softly, her movements gentle, showing the kindness she had learned through her own downfall. "She's really changed," my mother commented, joining me at the window. "People can change, Mom," I said. Dad believed that. Razor proved it, and now Sandra is proving it too. I had learned something few discover so young. True strength lies not in destroying enemies, but in turning them into allies through the power of second chances, guided by true responsibility. The prejudice that had nearly destroyed my family had become the catalyst for a transformation that touched hundreds of lives. Sandra, who once represented everything wrong with the system, now worked tirelessly to fix it from within. And somewhere, Marcus Washington smiled, knowing that his son had learned the most important lesson of all, that true revenge is not destroying those who hurt you, but to turn pain into purpose and hatred into an opportunity to build a better world. Because when you choose kindness, even in the face of cruelty, when you offer second chances even after being betrayed, you don't just win. You redefine what victory means, proving that true heroes are not those who never fall, but those who get up and reach out to help others get up too. 2 years later, I, Kevin Washington, now 16, stood on stage at Detroit's majestic Masonic Theater, receiving the National Young Hero Award from the Governor of Michigan. "Kevin taught us that heroes aren't born in mansions," the governor told an audience of 1,000 people. his voice ringing with conviction. They grow up in small apartments with big hearts. In the front row, my mother wept with pride alongside Destiny, who breathed freely, without a single worry, her inhaler now a distant memory. Razor and Cole gave a standing ovation as I dedicated the award to my father, who taught me that saving lives is worth any sacrifice. The Marcus Washington Center had expanded, now operating in 5 cities, serving more than 2,000 families. I ran the National Mentoring Program, connecting young people from all backgrounds with entrepreneurs, shaping the leaders of tomorrow. At 16, I had already changed more lives than many adults do in decades. Sandra, now the respected coordinator of the center's free clinic, watched from the back row. 2 years of dedicated volunteer work had completely transformed her. She devoted 60 hours a week to caring for the very families she had once despised, finding true purpose in genuine redemption. After the ceremony, a reporter, eager for a soundbite, asked me, "How were you able to forgive those who humiliated you?" I paused, considering my words carefully. "I didn't forgive them," I replied, my gaze briefly finding Sandra in the crowd. "I transformed them. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's turning them into allies through example." I looked at Sandra, who was now helping a child with asthma, a gentle smile on her face. Some people need to fall to learn how to fly, and when they fly, we all rise together. That night I visited my father's grave. The moon cast long shadows across the quiet cemetery. "Dad," I whispered, kneeling, my hand tracing the etched name on his headstone. "That $15 I spent saving Razor turned into a revolution. You were right. A life is worth any sacrifice." A gentle breeze swayed the flowers on the grave, as if Marcus, my father, were agreeing. I had learned the most powerful lesson of all. True greatness isn't about defeating enemies, but about transforming hearts. That the best revenge is to build bridges where others have built walls. And that when you choose kindness, even in the face of cruelty, you don't just change your own life. You redefine what victory means. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe, even when everyone around you bets on cruelty.